Hey everybody! Today I wanted to show a couple of retextures that I've made over the last week or so, just kind of for fun, and I'm thinking of maybe using these, at least the Imperial one, in one of my playthroughs at some point. So what I did was I took the robe mesh and a retexture created by Lynn. It's a really beautiful retexture, and I took that as the basis to making my own retexture. As you can see here, I made one that is essentially for an Imperial Mage, if you will, um, with the red for the Imperial colors, and I added chainmail. Just maybe it's impractical, but I thought it looked kind of neat. Um, and the leather bits on it, and it's a hood and a robe, two separate pieces to match. And I thought it turned out pretty nice. I was really happy with this, and I'm actually looking forward to using this particular one in a future playthrough. I put just a small enchant on the pieces when I put them into the game. A couple magic enchants there. The other retexture I decided to make, again using the monk robe, and again based on one of Lynn's retextures, which I'll get to in the later part of the video, is basically a Stormcloak Priest Robe. And again, I just took elements from the Stormcloak Armor. It's actually a retexture mod. I have the Stormcloak Armor, which is really nice. I'll put that link in the description. And I used elements from that to create this retexture of the monk robe, again to turn this into basically a Stormcloak Priest type robe that you can wear. You can see I put the matching leather bits onto the bottom there. And there's a hood that goes along with this as well for the full set. And it's all dirty because, again, the fabric that I used to create this was from the retexture of the Stormcloak Armor, which is also dirty. And so I just used that the way it was made in that retexture. And like with the others, I put a little bit of an enchant on both of these when I put them in the game. So I was really happy with how this turned out. I may actually
think you might be in the wrong place.
I don't know why she says I'm in the wrong place. Look, I'm wearing your clothes, lady. Anyway, so yeah, I might actually force these onto some NPCs if I can find some that seem appropriate, because it'd be really fun to see my own creations actually in the game on more than just my own character. But if not, at least I'll have the joy of playing around with these myself. But I was pretty happy with how it turned out. And the last thing that I did was, again, based on one of Lynn's robes, the Vaermina retexture robe, which you can see here is this beautiful purple color with these silver accents on it. Really so nicely done. I just love all of Lynn's work. But this robe, so this is a replacement for the original Vaermina robes, and the original robes I don't believe have a hood. And so I decided to go ahead. I know Lynn didn't make a recolor of any hood for this, so I decided to go ahead and make a hood that would match, so you could have a complete set. And that is, oh, here we go, shown right here. I put just again a small enchant on this. And I was really happy with the way this turned out too. I think the colors matched up really nicely. I wasn't sure what I thought about the big emblem on the side, but I went ahead and left it for now. So we'll see. I can always take that off in the future if I want. It's funny because it looks like there's actually some clipping here. That's a mesh issue, not a texture issue. I'm a little surprised to see that. So I may have to look at these meshes and see what's going on. But sorry, I'm moving the mouse too much. But I was really happy with how this turned out. And I thought it matched the robe really nicely. All right, so you might be wondering how I go about making my retextures. Um, I don't know how you're supposed to do this, so I can just tell you what I do. Um, I use GIMP for this because for two reasons. Number one, the ability to work in layers, which is just makes this so powerful, and also the ability to add transparencies, which you can't do in something like Paint. Maybe you can do it in new Paint, but you couldn't do it in old Paint. Um, anyway, so basically what I do is, and what I did for this one, was I took, and I mentioned this before, I took one of Lynn's robe retextures. This is just a basic black mage robe right here. And I duplicated this layer a number of times, and then I deleted parts of it that I wanted to, each part basically that I want to be a different color, I isolate onto a separate tab, as you can see here. So I'll take this and I will just delete parts from it so that I get all the pieces separated. For example, here, I just removed all the parts that I didn't want to be red when I did the recolor. Now you'll see some other things on here did go red, like the panels here that I actually want to be leather and the rope. But what I do for those cases is I just isolate those pieces and I layer them on the top, so that when you put the two together, right, whichever one's on the top here gets layered down. So I isolate the leather. Here I isolated the rope. And I deleted the bottom part of underneath the robe here because that's where I wanted to put the chainmail. And the chainmail I actually borrowed from the Stormcloak Revival armor, which again I mentioned before. And I just took a snippet of that and copied it over and over and over to create a panel. As you can see here, a panel of chainmail that goes underneath. So that's basically it. So you separate out all the different elements and then you can color each layer independently and you merge them down on top of each other and export it. And that's how I get the retexture. A similar thing for the hood. This was the Imperial hood, where I first of all cut out the parts where I wanted the chainmail to be, and I put that underneath so it shows up. And the leather I isolated, right, so I can keep that a leather color. The buckle I want to be metal, not red, so I isolate the buckle, and then again you just layer the pieces together. You would merge these all down on top of each other, delete the one that you don't want, which is the original. This is the original hood that I actually used to do this. Yeah, so merge them all down and then export it as a DDS file, and that's your new texture. A similar process for the Stormcloak robe. This one was a little more complicated, and you can see I have a lot of tabs in here. I didn't really clean this up. But this one's a little more complicated because I had to actually change the fabric as well. So this was the original robe from Lind that I used. It's just so beautiful. Just, gosh, I wish I was this talented, but I'm not. So I can kind of borrow from other people and cobble things together, but I can't create things on my own like this from scratch. But what I wanted for this was not really, you can see there's kind of a pattern in this fabric here. I wanted the Stormcloak fabric to match the Stormcloak, here we go, the Stormcloak retexture that I was using. So I just pulled a panel of this fabric off of this particular layer and used that to create a panel of the Stormcloak fabric. And then I just overlaid that onto, if I can figure out which one it is, there we go. I overlaid that onto the robe to get more of that Stormcloak fabric look to it. And then again, because I wanted to change different parts of this to different colors, I just isolated things out, right? So here's the ropes. This was all the trim. This was a big pain in the rear, but I really wanted the trim to look nice and crisp, so I went ahead and separated all of that out. Here's the leather panels. That's the base fabric. I tried to do the arm two ways. I tried it with a leather piece on it, and I didn't like the way it looked in game. It was kind of distorted. So what I ended up doing was adding back in, here we go, was adding back in the just this wool type texture in here by recoloring the original robe from Lynn to this blue color, and then just cutting out, you know, the section on this layer to allow that to show through, right? So again, but all the basic same basic technique that I used for the other. Separate them into layers, color each layer the way you want, merge them all down, delete all the layers you don't want, and then export it out. And that's how I got that. Similar thing with the hood. Right, there's the top fabric. That's some of the trim. There's some more trim. And there's the buckle, which I wanted to be silver. And then the wool parts here, colored in dark blue. Same type of thing. For the Vaermina hood, again, it was a little more complicated because I had to pull all of this trim off. So I started here with the original Vaermina robe, and again, I just copied bits of this over. I copied I just made a panel of the dark purple color from the original Vaermina robe here that serves as kind of the bottom part of the hood. And then I copied a section of the fabric up here and made a panel of that, which I used to create this top part of the hood. And then for the trim, again, I just isolated the trim from the original hood. You can see here, which was in gold. I isolated it, and I just deleted all of the stitching you can see here because I wanted the trim to look nice and smooth the way it is in Lynn's original Vaermina robe. You can see here that the trim is all really nice and smooth. So yeah, so when I did the trim, I just removed the stitching from it and kind of cut down the width a little bit so that it would look a little bit more like the robe. And then for all the little fancy pieces, I just copied those off of the Vaermina robe and placed them on here and got them angled all the right way. Put it all together, and there we go. So it's a little time consuming to do this, but I find it to be really fun actually, and I just love to see how it looks in the game. So that's how I do it. I'd love to know how other people do it, but this works. This method works for me. It's not perfect, but I think it's close enough that you'd have to look pretty hard in the game to really tell the difference. Yeah, and I'm just really excited to play around with these new pieces that I've put in. So I hope you enjoyed that. See you later.